Good morning, everyone. Thank you for gathering today to mark the really important expansion of the care responders citywide into South and Southwest. We're going to get this started with my mayor, Bruce Harrell. I've often said he is the one who recruited me. He talked me into this. I didn't know what it was going to be, and it's turned out to be the real joy and honor of my life to advance this important movement. And so with that, I give you the mayor.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Chief. So we will, I'll say a few general words, and then we'll hand it back to the Chief to ask to provide some specific details. I'm very, very excited. Thanks for being here at Del Ridge Community Center, otherwise known as Kiki's home over there. She runs this place and runs it the way we like our places to be run. An outstanding city employee, and we have a great staff here. So we wanted to choose this area and this place when we talk about the expansion of our team here. Many of you have followed what we're trying to do with our care team, and the employees standing with us today and those employees that are doing this work just optimize and epitomize what we're trying to do in terms of keeping everyone safe. I want to ground us in a quote that was a Frederick Douglass quote that I've used once before, and that is, if there's no struggle, there's no progress. You know, we are sort of making it up as we go to some extent. We follow what's happening around this country. We study best practices. We recruit the best talent, and then we implement, and we learn as we go. So today we're celebrating the expansion of the Care Department dual dispatch pilots that are now serving communities citywide, not just in the regions before. And this is exciting. Let's talk a little bit about what this team has already accomplished. They've responded to over 1,700 incidents with an average response time of less than 12 minutes and an average time on the scene of approximately 33 minutes. Over a quarter of those requests involve transport to shelters and day centers, a time-intensive ask which would have taken police away from other priorities. CARE is providing people the help that they need through behavioral interventions and crisis de-escalation, and that word will come up often in the work that they do. De-escalation, resource navigation and assistance finding services, and to a large extent just providing basic supplies like food and water and clothing and hygiene items. You would be surprised at what simple things sometimes will do for a human being in crisis. Now, getting today was not a guarantee, and of course there's still a lot of work to do. I want to recognize Councilmember Mark Solomon for being here after what I understand was a marathon meeting yesterday on some important issues. Thank you for being here. A lot of intention and thought went into the care design structure. And again, I can't thank enough Chief Barden for her expertise and her thoughtful and almost academic approach in doing this kind of work. Now, what we know, and the data clearly would support the fact that care responders are able to provide people in crisis the help that they need and free up, once again, the limited police resources, and allows us as a city to use our critical resources where they are needed most. I've said on other occasions we are making incredible progress in our police recruiting. In 2025, we're on track for close to double the applicants per day at this point last year. This is tremendous work done by our police department and our staff and other city employees, and quite honestly, I'm excited to be out here in West Seattle to sort of talk about this exciting. I have a lot of fond memories here. I was young once as a young man, and with my family here. And when we talk about this kind of news that we're spreading out throughout the city, no better place to talk about our One Seattle vision than here in West Seattle. You've heard me say on other occasions, there's no One Seattle without West Seattle. These care responders, I can't speak enough about them. They're well-trained, well-practiced in behavioral health. They understand the communities that they serve. They've spent time in the communities that they serve. When they see someone in crisis, they are trained to see someone that needs help. That epitomizes our values within our One Seattle structure. But that's not what this is all about. Whether they are a city employer, neighbor, or service provider, we are here simply because we care about community. We care about a human being in crisis. So again, I want to thank Chief Barden. I'll turn it back over to her, and I have to tell, I just went in preparation for this press event inside the center, Kiki, and what I saw was beautiful. I saw the kids in there with excitement to learn, curiosity, and then I saw, how should I say, more seasoned people like myself saying, welcome to my house. That makes us feel good as a city, makes us feel like we're heading in the right direction, and with our care expansion, I know that we are. And with that, I'll reintroduce Chief Barden.
Yeah, I can confirm. Some of you know my first career was teacher. And as I heard the kids, I really had to discipline myself to not wander into that familiar, happy space where everyone seemed to be getting along. So I am chief of Seattle's third public safety department called CARE. I was recently criticized a little bit for focusing so much on the challenges in our community and not taking time to really celebrate the achievements of this young department. And I accepted that critique, but I can also tell you I'm not that likely to change. I was always the kid who was really excited to build the treehouse and not play in the treehouse, and generally one problem's done and I'm on to the next. But we should take time to be grateful. And I'm really happy to be here today with so many of you who are truly advancing the movement that I get to amplify. I do appreciate Mayor Harrell. What I've learned all across the country is the only way these programs really can start to have impact is when there is consistent conviction in leadership all across levels of government, and I appreciate him. I have been with many of you in community, and I am grateful that every time I am, invariably, whether it's a small group or a big group, the question I get is, how can we help? What do you need? What can we do? And I appreciate that. So I want to share with you, last year, one of my favorite occasions actually was attending the ribbon cutting of the new Overlook Walk, the park that's down by Pike Place Market. And I was marveling, I remember, at the stunning views, at the landscape design. I was sort of tracking the progress, but I didn't understand. I wasn't prepared for the grandeur of that day. And as I looked around, all the people smiling and laughing, my mind naturally went back to the great Alaska Way Viaduct debate years before. You recall that roadway was a seemingly intractable barrier between downtown and the waterfront. And as I understand it, new proposals started to be considered all the way back in the 60s. Now, the state and city considered all of these different options, and then eventually the deep bored tunnel was selected as the best solution. And so the southern part of the viaduct was demolished in 2011 and replaced with our current freeway. Now, I had moved to Seattle in 2010, and I did not at all understand the nostalgia and loss actually expressed as people were commuting on the viaduct one last time. I personally didn't have any sentimentality around it. And then I remembered the adventures of Bertha, of the boring machine, back in 2013, 2014, 2015. So you'll recall, Bertha had launched with great celebration and was cruising along for about 4 months until it hit a steel pipe near South Main Street. I think I'm triggering some of you here, so I'm sorry about that. 3 days later, Bertha overheated, and this led to a massive repair effort costing more than $100 million. Crews had to excavate a 120-foot deep hole in order to rescue and repair that giant drill's front end. And then meanwhile, Pioneer Square began to sink. All these misadventures attracted a lot of criticism, local attention. I moved out of Washington State in 2015 and still recall hearing back east from time to time tales of Seattle's misguided leaders and this misguided project. One council member was quoted in the Seattle Times saying, "I'm not sure anyone wants to talk about this. It is a nightmare. There is no happy ending." Well, workers finally recommenced after a 2-year delay. And true to Bertha fashion, all these problems kept popping up. There were more delays, more sinkholes, and a lot more bad press. In spite of all the travails, that tunnel was eventually complete. And that infrastructure redesign is what enabled the waterfront to go forward. So as I listened on that day to the ribbon-cutting remarks about our Coast Salish heritage and thought about those who had kept the faith and protected that vision, more than 10,000 people participated in planning sessions and community meetings, walking tours, environmental reviews. I felt reverent. I realized when I used to hear about the viaduct plans and read the headlines, I did not at all grasp the vision of what this could be. I didn't understand It wasn't a conversation about efficient transportation and easy access to tourist destinations. The vision was to recapture and acknowledge the spirit of our ancestry, the essence of our shared values, to reaffirm our connection to nature and to each other. And so then my thoughts naturally turned to the past 2 years, to my adventures, and the questions and comments and skepticism and incredulity I've encountered. What if a social worker gets shot? We already have CIT trained officers. We already have Health One. We shouldn't spend more money on services. It was recently suggested that CARE was a failing experiment in districts where we have had 2 care responders for 1 month and in districts where we have not yet begun the work. And the truth is today, I don't have any Bertha debacles to share with you. Those first 1,768 encounters have gone extraordinarily well, and we have had no adverse outcomes or incidents. Every single time CARE can respond to a behavioral health need without any incident, that is a win. I freed up officers in that moment, and we should always want to send, regardless of police or fire staffing, you should want to send the correct discipline to the call. Every time we deploy care responders instead of police, we spend about half as much, and this has real impact on the general fund. And I've learned to speak in terms of hours saved and dollars and cents because I know people care about these things. But the vision the mayor and I share is not simply to improve public safety operations and efficiency. The vision is a society where every public safety intervention and interaction is designed to heal and to redirect and improve individual lives. And I can't imagine a world where we invest in prevention first, and then early intervention, and then diversion before we go to the coercive arm of the law. We must collectively insist that we invest in diversified response, but also that we develop a system that will predictably and successfully repattern behavior, improve and promote mental health and stability, and support people in redirecting their lives and reaching their potential. The vision is to rebuild the village, to let go of what divides, and to embrace what connects. And the success of this movement will hinge on individual community members remaining deeply anchored in the moral imperative of this work and not faltering in the face of shifting narratives and budget shortfalls and self-interested tactics by people prioritizing profit and power over the greater good. So to our amazing care responders, many of them are working, to the managers, Catriana Hernandez and Rose Nakano, I thank you for blazing the trail to that future state. You are digging the hole right now, digging that tunnel, and it is hard, and I acknowledge that. We remind each other all the time for whom we work and to whom we are really accountable. It's our neighbors languishing on the street and our neighbors who are suffering out of sight. We work for the family members who implore us to help their people. And we work on behalf of the thousands of family members who have lost their loved ones to suicide or to overdose or to the impacts of having no place to call home. On a personal note, I express such gratitude to all of those who have lived through the conditions and the circumstances I so often speak about. You inform my perspectives and our strategy and our recommendations. To me, One Seattle does not mean one unified government entity. It means we are one with those who are left behind, and we're one with those who have been rendered invisible and voiceless. And I will tell you the best messages I get every day say things like, thank you for really seeing us. Thank you for believing in us. Thank you for knowing that we do recover. So I do look forward to the day of our metaphorical Overlook Walk ribbon cutting, when all of Seattle can see and enjoy the work, the tenacity, the grit, and the abiding compassion that preceded that moment. And sometimes I think the next generation is probably going to look back at all these pictures of us smiling and laughing and think it was really fun and easy. But privately, we will know the travails, and we will know what the progress cost us. And I treasure these days working with you and working for you. So onward. So a few of my favorite community leaders are going to speak next. I hope I warmed up the crowd for you. The first is Charlotte Starck. Will you come up here? So Charlotte is the president of the Alki Community Council. She invited me to speak to that group some time ago. It was one of my favorite occasions, and I learned Alki is active. West Seattle is engaged. I have had many meeting requests since and been able to walk along with people, and you are one of the best leaders in the city. So thank you for being here.
I'm humbled by that comment. So And thank you on behalf of West Seattle as well. I have to say, Chief Barden, pardon me. I know. No, you have the education, the experience, the commitment, the passion. It is Chief Barden for me always. This means a lot. For personal and neighborhood reasons. The personal I'm not going to go into today because I know many of you have experienced it. Amy doesn't even know my story in my family. But on a happy note first, I wrote that I was going to lead off that this is highly anticipated because for a year and a half I've been saying the one-word question, which is when, when does West Seattle get care? And so on behalf of all the West Seattle neighborhoods that attended, especially the West Seattle precinct meeting last night, it was very, very vivid that all of us are excited, and we just imagine the red carpet, Chief Barden, for all your people and all the work that's to come, because it's here. No doubt, our neighborhoods from Alki and Admiral to the Junction to South Park and West Seattle is still emerging from an unprecedented level of crime that includes gun violence, smash and grabs, carjackings, and more that you all see in the news that has taken a toll on our residents, from young and old to the small businesses impacted at unsustainable levels. Police officers have been battling amid their staff shortage, and they still do. And things are improving, and we see that improvement coming. And there's still a lot of work to do. And we're committed to that. And it's going to take this multidisciplinary, multi-prong approach to right the ship. But do you feel it? Because I do. I feel it. Our police department is supported, as we said in West Seattle, by neighborhood leaders across north to south, and supported and depended upon in West Seattle as the guardians of public safety. They are skilled. They are called with courage to face down the worst predators and bad actors, and for those reasons, we need police on the front lines managing high-level emergency calls, hands down. As the police department works to expand their bandwidth and hire more officers, and the mayor is definitely committed to that as well, there have been naturally longer waits on those non-emergency calls in these last years, winding up as needs have been higher, and they can take considerable time from officers. They said the average is 33 minutes, but we've also heard some can take hours. So to people who wonder, why do we need care in West Seattle? The arrival of the care crisis responders brings a lever that West Seattle residents can feel more comfortable pulling right now. Because sometimes, me included, people hesitate and they walk by a person in a mental or addiction crisis because we've become too used to seeing the behaviors and feeling like we can't do anything about it, or it's just the new norm. But we shouldn't accept it, and today is a good day to reset our thinking. If you've hesitated to call 911, not wanting to burden the police department, knowing how short-staffed they are, now you know to just call. Call 911, because the dispatchers will get the right person there, and we now have the people who can handle those non-emergency responses. So pardon me, it's chilly out here. Some may question whether care is necessary, because there's lots of nonprofits. We've seen lots of money move in the direction of the streets to the homeless. and those that are challenged, and other resources. However, they don't provide the bandwidth to the police that the care team will be able to do in the same way. They don't have a dispatch system to reach the non-emergency in that exact moment when someone flags the crisis. So this synergism between care and police offers more hope for us in West Seattle and across the city, and a potential lifeline to those who somehow, somewhere along the line, fell into addiction and couldn't get out. I want to take a moment to acknowledge that, as I mentioned, it's not just a them issue. Most people know someone in their family, their friends, their circle of colleagues that is struggling with an issue, perhaps with mental illness, addiction, in the post-COVID and a very drug-infused society. And we as humans are not kryptonite. We as a city are not a heartless city. We are resilient. In West Seattle, we've seen the human spirit demonstrate that resilience and strength as people heal, and we continue to move forward with tangible solutions. And the care team is a tangible part of the solution to promote public safety, civility, and healing in the places where we need it. And is all that aspirational as an outcome? Yes. Should it be? Yes. And I'm proud to stand with the people who leaned in hard, starting with Mayor Harrell, to do this hard work. So to our Southwest Precinct Police and all the Seattle police officers, thank you for your tenacious commitment to protect and serve. And to Chief Barden, thank you ahead for the work that you and your team are going to do.
Thank you, Charlotte. Next up, similarly, we have Erin Goodman. I met Erin, I think, probably 3 weeks into the job and latched on to her. She is a fierce advocate for what is right in this city. She's been running the SODO BIA, was the founder. It's been 10 years. She's not aging in the time that I've known her, and I'm aging rapidly, and so, but thank you for being here and for being an advocate.
Thank you, Amy. And that's not what my mirror tells me, but I'll take it. Good morning. I'm Erin Goodman, Executive Director of the SODO Business Improvement Area, and I am really happy to be here this morning for this announcement. As many of you know, SODO, it really is an epicenter of our city's unsheltered crisis and the accompanying complex challenges related to public safety, public health, and community well-being. Every day we see individuals struggling with mental health issues, addiction, and a lack of basic resources like food and shelter. And these are issues that cannot be addressed by law enforcement alone. This long-awaited expansion of the care team into the South and Southwest precincts is an essential part of beginning to address those issues. This initiative has shown success downtown, and we welcome care to SODO. This will ensure that people in crisis get care from trained professionals in de-escalation and mental health support, while allowing sworn law enforcement officers to focus on calls and situations that require their expertise. And I want to be clear, my support for expanding civilian-led crisis response teams does not take away from my long-standing support for the Seattle Police Department. Our officers are essential, and I have always stood behind them. However, we know that not all 911 calls are for violent incidents or necessarily require a sworn officer response. Often, these calls involve someone in a mental health crisis or just in need of services. And in this period of short staffing shortages at SPD and in significant property crime issues in SODO, we need to make sure that we are using our resources wisely and sending the right response to calls. This expansion will provide a compassionate, specialized response to those in need, complementing, not replacing, our police and fire departments. This is a crucial step in rethinking how we respond to crisis situation, ensuring the right care is delivered at the right time. So I want to thank Mayor Harrell, Chief Barden, and the entire CARE team who has thought outside the box and leads the nation in bringing this new type of crisis response into reality, and look forward to working with them in SODO. Thank you.
Thank you, Erin. And last up, we have Carolanne Sanders Lundgren. Come on up. Carolanne works for Purpose Dignity Action, PDA, and is here also representing, I know, Lisa Dugard and other leaders. This is really important to understand. Some of the lead and the reach contracts, those are being looked at. I've often said, we're first responders. I want to rapidly triage and then hand off. And so LEAD has been here for a dozen years doing this work, really advocating we need community and care and not punishment, which is, again, the message that I amplify. So thank you for being here, Carolanne.
Good morning. My name is Carolanne Sanders Lundgren, and I'm very pleased to be representing Purpose Dignity Action this morning as its Chief Campaign Officer. Thank you so much to Mayor Harrell for including us in the celebration of the Care Department and its expansion. And we share your enthusiasm in bringing such needed resources to South and Southwest Seattle communities. This morning I'm reminded of a point that actually Chief Barden made last week, which has really stuck with me since then. This was in a conversation to City Council. She made the point that public health is public safety. We share that belief at PDA. It is our collective job to create the conditions in which people can chart their own path to stability, purpose, to joy, no matter where their starting point. And so what an honor to be able to partner with this literal award-winning care department to bring that vision to life. I want to talk about where PDA's programs like LEAD, pre-booking diversion, and co-lead intensive case management come into the equation alongside the care department. We work together like puzzle pieces to constitute a whole system of care, as Chief Barden just described, where care coordinates and deploys our first responders who are really purposefully focused on de-escalating and stabilizing that moment of crisis. You might think about LEAD or co-lead as a kind of second responder. We come along after that point of crisis as uniquely skilled professionals who are equipped to provide a long-term response to a person's chronic and ongoing health, legal, socioeconomic challenges. Because if you think about it, what we are asking people to do on the other side of that moment of crisis when we first encounter them, when the care department first encounters them, is quite literally to re-engineer their entire lives. We are asking people to re-engineer their entire lives. And if we want them to get there, if we want to experience a true sea change in the dynamics of public health and safety in our community, then we owe people the sustained, evidence-based care, accountability, and companionship that realistically it takes to get them there. This is our moral imperative, as Chief Barden said. And so we look forward to the mayor's future endeavors to streamline the work of the care department and the many community-based organizations like PDA that are working in this space of public health and safety. We're really excited about the potential integration of PDA's work more directly into the care department portfolio. But most of all, I just want to say I cannot emphasize this enough. We are so glad to have you, Chief Barden, as a partner in this work, as a visionary leader. Thank you for working so intentionally, so diligently to staff up a team of true experts. LEAD is standing by to take your referrals. We're ready to partner here in South and Southwest Seattle, and we are energized for the journey ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolanne. This is good for my well-being. This is like formal peer support. I appreciate it. I think now we get to take some questions. You can ask the mayor, any of us. Erica?
Can you describe the elements of this expansion? My understanding is there's 24 people currently on their team. Is it redistributing them into these areas? And then, I guess, second, this would be a follow-up, but does it require, do you have to get SPOG's approval to go beyond 24?
Yeah, so the first point, we've had 6 responders piloting downtown for the first year. We were really studying those calls. We were most often dispatching the team alongside police, which I maintain was a very good approach because I could assess, are they safe? They filed a report after every single occasion. Was there any adverse impact? Did you connect people to services? Are we basically responding to the right types of calls? So very quickly, after about 600 calls, it became clear we were getting it right. I much more frequently send fire out who need police alongside or backup. That happens every day. So we know how to do that in first response. We're all on police channels, and we can easily redirect. The team then, last summer, the mayor announced would expand to the 24 responders. That is the limiting factor in the original SPOG MOU. So we have 24 responders now hired. They just finished their academy. We've got 3 supervisors, which is sort of like the sergeant equivalent in the care department, a training manager, Rose, who's brilliant, and then Kat is the manager over the unit, kind of like a lieutenant, or really like a chief, if we're honest. It is true that in that MOU, which expires at the end of the year, the limiting number was 24 as we studied it. To this point, we've been to, again, as of yesterday, 1,768 calls. We have called for police to come back and assist 3 times, which actually I'm shocked at how low that is. I would have expected it to be a little bit more frequent than that. So, yeah, what else?
Hi. Hey, Tracy Record, West Seattle Blog. How soon will the local care responders be actually working out of this area? They told me last week they're still being dispatched from downtown.
Yeah, hey, Kat, come on up. I just remember somebody knows more about this. And she did really well last summer, and so now it's the trouble with being competent. So it was actually much easier to staff and to train the responders than to do all the paperwork, get the MOUs to be co-located in precincts and at other places. So do you want to give a status on geographically where they are?
I thought I was going to get away with it. I thought Amy was going to handle this. So our team has been at each stage hiring and training new folks, and then when they deploy into field training, we issue them into their new area. That's one of the areas they train in. So in January, that was North Precinct, and then now actually starting March 10th is when our latest class of people deployed into field training and begin staffing South and Southwest precincts. So while our office is over at 3rd South and South Horton for now, we're also working with Captain Bear, who's kind enough to work with us to offer space inside Southwest Precinct as well. So we're already able to take calls in Southwest, but we'll also be even more responsive and readily available once we have space a little more centrally located too.
Is there a timeline for that?
I would say probably before April 1st would be our expectation to move in there. But we're lucky that the space that we found actually with Erin's assistance through SODO BIA is very centrally located to I-5 and the West Seattle Bridge, so we're still able to respond pretty quickly from where we are now in the meantime.
I was looking at Captain Bear. Does that sound real? Yeah. Fact check. Yeah, thank you, Tracy. Anything else? Hi.
Yeah, are there plans to expand at some point beyond this 24? I know that was the end of the year, but after this, you're looking at
It is my strong contention that it should. I think Seattle doesn't always realize we've had the RACER response up north in 5 jurisdictions since 2017. There are teams that are successful in Bellingham. We've been doing this work all across the country. I love it that I'm being given so much praise for being novel. It's not novel. It's not novel. I'm flying to Albuquerque next weekend to speak at their press event. Their care responders, that unit, ACS, has responded to 100,000 calls in 3 years. And if you look at their police data and listen to Chief Medina, he says dramatic improvement to police staffing, police morale, reduction in property crime, reduction in violent crime. And this is logical to me. If you free up law enforcement to do law enforcement work, you're going to see improvements in public safety. So yes, if it's up to me, Mayor, do you have anything to add?
No.
Is he nodding
Ditto.
behind me or is he shaking his head? Yeah. Thank you for the question. Anything else?
Just to clarify
Yes.
that, how many calls total has the team over the period of time they've existed?
1,768.
1,778?
68 as of yesterday.
1768,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yes, and again, it is quite a high number because overwhelmingly it was only 6 people on staff. And you need to remember, this is line work, right? So if I say I have 24 responders, that means I have 12 to 18 responders active, only 10 hours a day on any given day. And what we're trying to do is really study the crisis hotspots. It's predictable where these crisis calls are going to come from, when they're going to occur. And so I'm saying, let's get out there proactively and see if we can't actually reduce the calls coming into 911. What else? Yes. Go ahead, Deb.
Deb Barker here asking, saying welcome and
Chief Barden, what do you need from the community?
My favorite question. Yeah, I mean, I think the main thing is just hope and conviction that we need this. Don't let it be political. I always say this. When I arrived, you know, I was an outsider. I hadn't been in Seattle, and I was thinking, what am I solving for? And it was just very literal. I'm getting 900,000 calls. If you take a step back and think about what the person is describing or what they're needing, who would you send? And so I reject the notion that it's about, you know, whether or not we want law enforcement. Of course we need law enforcement by the data. We had escalating violent crime 2020 to 2023, and now it's improving. Thank you, Mayor, for that, and to police leadership. But we just need to be pragmatic about it and iterative. At a future state, if we see a trend, again, if Chief Scoggins and company can solve the fentanyl crisis, that would be awesome with Health 99, then you would likely reduce that and repurpose that unit. So we don't want these rigid structures. The other thing I always say is take care of one another. That's why I love the BIAs. I love community groups. We do need to rebuild the village. So many of the calls that we respond to relate to intense loneliness and isolation and despair and despondence. We are social creatures, and we do best in environments like this. We need that. That's fundamental to what it is to be human. So everybody should be volunteering, everybody should be engaging. And again, I want us to focus on what works and let go of the past. Thank you for my favorite question. Yeah, Erica.
I thought we were going to have a first. My presser, where I didn't get asked one question, I was. Go ahead, Eric. And let me, before I answer your question, I did want to thank Charlotte, Erin, and Carolanne for being vocal and committed to your communities and to the safety of everyone. Thank you very much. I know it's still nerve-wracking sometimes speaking in front of cameras. I have to do it all the time. Thank you very much. Erica, please.
The City Council was expressing some skepticism about the results from CARE the other day. I'm wondering, from your perspective, how confident are you in this pilot, and do you want to expand it beyond 24?
Yeah, so great question. I have to be a little careful because, as Erica's first question sort of suggested, we are in negotiations with a small contract right now, and of course this is part of that negotiation, so I don't want to get in front of my skis to talk too much about what we're trying to do with this. We, as Chief Barden said very clearly, this should help our police department, simply put, and it should help the community because we're freeing up resources and getting a different skill set in this situation. I think last week Eric was referring to a very robust discussion by the City Council, and I thought you did a great job in responding on what we are doing. There's often a misunderstanding about what these fine people can do. We have 24 CARE responders, 3 managers, that they are not empowered to arrest anyone. They are not there to take the place of a police officer. And I think often in that exchange, I think that there was somewhat of a misunderstanding of the role and scope of these fine people. So we'll take the feedback, and I always say feedback is not definition, it's just information to get better. And we have a great team of CARE responders committed. So we listen to the City Council, we'll get better. We have fine leadership in place, fine policies in place, and hopefully a year from now, we'll have even more success stories on the lives we saved. Thank you, Erica. Okay, I'm going to count us down. I got one more question. Okay. Yeah, I didn't think I was going to get out of here without any questions, so go ahead.
Real quick, City Council approved the rezoning part of SODO for residential housing. Half of that housing going to be supposed to be affordable housing. What are your thoughts on that?
Sure.
And how does that align with what you've been vocal about, getting downtown revitalized?
Sure. I'll just give a little context for those that aren't following it. Yesterday, the City Council, after I was referring to a marathon meeting with Councilmember Solomon's input, they had a long meeting yesterday on what I'll call stadium housing. Last night it passed 6-3. And the thrust was to have housing in this area that was formerly zoned for more industrial use. I'll just put it that way, and there could be a hotels as a possibility. So I think the vote reflected the need to have housing. We are in a housing crisis. We want baristas and teachers and social workers to be able to live in this city. I think the work now needs to be to demonstrate to the port and to the longshoremen and to those that work so feverishly in the cargo industry that we remain committed to a maritime industry part of our ecosystem. And I heard comments from Councilmember Solomon and others. I loved your Beto quote, by the way. I actually watched this stuff. I think it was Come Together because it's pretty contentious, and I loved it. I love when people take chances like that. I screw up sometimes when I take chances, by the way. So I think, again, I want to thank the council. It was a tough decision. They deliberated. It was 6-3. And so I will have discussions with the port and the longshoremen and others on to make sure that they have the assurances that their industry remains a strong part of our ecosystem. I think Councilmember Bob Kettle said it best on the dais about how we remain committed to that area. Thank you for the question.
I have another one.
Okay.
March Madness is here. You're a basketball fan.
Yeah.
Excited about it. This is, and also it's just kind of a test for maybe what we're going to see with the World Cup coming here, albeit larger crowds for that. But here we are.
So my comms team told me no jokes about basketball for a while. So I will say that yes, we are excited about the games. I'm going to try to attend them at the end of the week. Again, we are a sports city, and personal privilege here, if I may. I attended last week in a memorial service for Gus Williams, who we lost. And on that same day, we lost Slick Watts, legends. And in that event that I attended, you had the greats there like Lenny Wilkins and Fred Brown and Jack Sigmund and all these folks. We're excited about basketball here. And again, this gives us an opportunity to show when the fans come out. I'm really sorry the University of Washington is not in play. Now that would have been a success story. But we're going to root on the teams. We're going to make sure everyone has a safe experience. And again, we have basketball fever in this region. I think everyone knows that. So thank you very much. CARE team, thank you for the work. Let's save some lives and do some good work. Thank you very much.